In topic A.4, we're going to look at behavior, and specifically two types. We're going to look at innate behavior and learned behavior, specifically how it relates to animals. I know we are animals, but the ones that aren't humans. So let's go ahead and jump to the first slide here. It's a couple definitions. In A.4.1, we just need a definition for stimulus or response when we're talking about how we respond to some sort of how it results in some sort of animal behavior. So stimulus is basically what's happening in the environment. So some sort of change will cause a response. So for example, sometimes it's not as obvious as you might seem. So it might be internal. So the change in the environment might be your blood sugar. And as we talked in human systems, the response might be, right, to release insulin. So that might be, or glucagon, depending if you have high or low blood sugar. But also the stimulus could be pain, right? In that case, the response is reflexive, right? You don't think about it. And if you burn yourself, you immediately pull your hand back. So I think we can break these down into two stimuli response groups. Those that are external, happening outside of your body. So the stimulus is generated from outside of your body. The example I have here is an animal running away from a predator. And the stimulus is the thing that's going to eat you. And your response, run away. And then internal, we talked about the blood sugar levels. Here's one about digestion. So food in your stomach is the stimulus. The response would be the release of enzymes. We're also going to look at the Pavlov dog experiment, where the stimulus was a bell associated with food, but it was a bell that caused the dog to salivate. So that's going to be something we look at later on. I'm going to jump ahead of the reflex arc just to talk a little bit about these two different groups of behaviors. So IB would like us to be able to tell the difference between innate and learned behavior. And sometimes it's not so clear. So what's innate and what's learned? It can be, as we're learning more about animals, we're beginning to learn that they learn and they're not born with certain behaviors. But let's talk real quick. So innate behaviors are those that we think are like genetic. They're instinctive, they are fixed, it's part of their wiring in their body, and it's kind of like independent of the environment. So an innate behavior, like how does a bird know how to sing as soon as it comes out of its egg, right? Or why do babies cry when they're hungry? Or how do babies know how to breastfeed? Like all those kind of things, never learned it, but they were kind of born with that type of behavior. And then learned behaviors, those are ones that are modified by experience. So that means because of something happening outside of you, you adjusted to get the best possible outcome. So an example of this in the wild, we're going to see a short video about crows, these black birds that have learned to do different things based on the tools that they have in nature or the tools that they come across in contact with humans. And not only do they use tools, they've learned to adjust those tools to get some sort of reward, whether that be food, in most cases food. So I have a couple examples down here, and yeah, your morals. Are you born with knowing what's right and wrong, or do you learn that? Not so easy, right? Skepticism. Skepticism is like, I don't really trust that. Are you born with a non-trusting personality? Is that encoded in your genes to protect you? Or do you learn that? Altruism. We're going to see examples of altruism in nature. Altruism is sharing at the cost of yourself. So it's kind of like being philanthropic, charity. And there's an example of a vampire bat that goes out and collects blood by sucking on, biting into cows and sucking their blood, and then returns back to the cave and actually spits the blood into its friends' mouths. Is that learned? Is that innate? Is it like you did me a favor last time, I'll do a favor for you this time? So sometimes it gets very interesting and very confusing, and we'll do a little activity in that to see how good you are.